Network aesthetics. What is it? My initial thoughts of network aesthetics was that it is an aesthetic which we see on the internet and in programs. That it is a type of way that things are displayed to us, such as a user interface or a website, like Adobe's programs. Whilst this is one reading of network aesthetics, I believe that the dominant reading, and the one which makes much more sense of network aesthetics, is that it is an aesthetic of how we view networks or interactions of not just the online world, but in real life. Firstly, I'll give credit to Christopher Yu of the other class, who also had the same project and helped me along with my ideas. Here is an image of a game called World of Warcraft. As you can see, there is heaps happening on the screen, but an important thing is that a lot of what you see is directly and indirectly interacting with other people, such as the chat logs, the team members' health bars, their damage, how you can see them on screen directly and in the minimap. I don't play this game, but even I can see just how much of the screen is dedicated to a network of other players. Which, if you compare that to this other image which was taken from the same game at a different point, there is almost nothing on the screen, and it looks so clean, but also so barren, and does not really have the feeling that you could interact with other players. Another example to illustrate what is meant by network aesthetics is this image by Dominic Russi. It really creates a sense of loneliness, not just from the lack of audience members and the colour, but by the position of the camera from behind the seats, implying that there should be an audience watching this performance. These are not my chosen works to go into more detail, but just examples to help you understand what I mean when I talk about network aesthetics. For my chosen work to look at, I decided to go for something unsubtle in its network aesthetics. So I chose the social network Facebook. And using the constructive critique model, we can see in depth the work they've put in to create this network aesthetic. This website will probably have a different effect upon you as it does upon me, and that effect might change day to day and hour to hour. However, in general, most people would probably feel a sense of community, connection, and friendship. This is probably because many people actually find these things here. I mean, it is a social media. It's hard to find a place to begin since there is just so much content on the page, but we'll begin with the colour, or the lack of it. The page, despite being meant to be this happy place with positive feelings, is majoritarily made up of grey, with only spots of colour around the page. And that is most definitely to lead your eyes to those parts of the site, such as posting content to others, friends, and their status. This is to help to create a network aesthetic to make you feel as if this site can connect you to people you know, even if you are not interacting with them directly. Next, I want to talk about the layout. How is this page set out to help create a sense of community and comradeship? First, we see that on-site menus, twice in their options, allow you to see your friends and groups. Then, you also have the option to talk with your friends, also twice depending on your situation. This doesn't seem extraordinary until you look at other sites, and you see that there are not as many menus, and almost none of them repeat the same options. You can also clearly see options to interact with the media, if that is either to produce or to add media to the site. The multiple options explicitly pushes the network aesthetic and promotes connection to others. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that the biggest social media company knows how to successfully push a network aesthetic. They have done an extraordinarily good job. Whilst there is the surface level to this project, there is also the deeper levels to it that we won't be able to explore, which delves into AI and algorithm. and how Facebook is able to push the network aesthetic even further through these things that we can't see. To what extent is unknown, and as stated by Conflict in My Outlook, We Meet Online, project from the University of Queensland, it begs the question, what will become of our privacy in the context of data mining, artificial intelligence, and weapons-grade surveillance capitalism? Are data rights human rights? Is there an alternative network? The other piece of work that I would be looking at will be much more subtle in how it pushes its network aesthetics. Whilst not an enthusiast of the game, I can still appreciate the box art of the game Fortnite and the network aesthetics hidden within the work. It communicates quite clearly a sense that this is a team-based game. By the way, this box art was designed for the original Fortnite game mode, not the one where you are in a battle royale with others that you usually see online. Firstly, I think addressing the diversity in the image is important to how the network aesthetic is created. Of the 4 people there is an Asian guy with blue hair, a white girl with mixed hair, a dark-skinned guy with facial hair, and a tanned girl with goggles. Then you can see that their weapons are all different. Their stances and their facial expressions are also all different. This diversity does more than create inclusion. It speaks to the audience that this game is much more than a single-player story, that there is an implied inclusion of others. An easier way of seeing how this works would be to imagine it only including the middle character, and how that could easily communicate that the game is a single-player game. As such, another feature that we should look closer into is the mostly equal platform the 4 characters have for exposure. As such, another feature that we should look closer into is the mostly equal platform the 4 characters have for exposure. They have similar amount of space taken up on the image. None of their designs are overly designed than any other. There is an equal amount of fashion wear on them, and their positions are more or less the same. This creates a network aesthetic more or less the same way as the other elements that we talked about before, since by implying there is no main character, but at least 4 main characters, and within a gaming setting, when there is 4 main characters, there is an expectation that there should be 4 players, and as such pushes a network aesthetic. Whilst subtle, I believe that there is clearly a thought about network aesthetic here, as it would clearly communicate to the audience what sort of game they are selling and the expectations of such. This idea is explored a lot further in Network Aesthetics by Patrick Jagoda, who looks at how video games open up spaces for participatory and improvisational thought. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all enjoyed.